You're able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me just, okay, thank you so much. And I apologize for the technical difficulties. So just a bit of a brief overview of my presentation. I'll be talking about a bit about my project, which focuses on the sociological aspect of habitus and how language is a part of habitus. And then I'll be talking a bit about the methodology of the research project, how collage is part of that, and how through the methodology of collage, these insights about language had appeared. Then I'll be speaking more about language as a valuable resource to learning for Afghan youth, a bit about translanguaging and how that emerged through their stories. Then through some of the examples from some like the poetry that they wrote in their collages and how they shared their stories. A bit about the significance and some of the community exhibits in which their collages were exhibited for everybody, and some considerations. So first, just a little bit of a background overview of my project before I talk more about there's the stories that youth shared with me. A bit about habitus, which my project focuses on a sociological concept by Bourdieu, and which really talks about a system of dispositions that are constantly in formation and evolving. So looking at this kind of transformative aspect, ways of being and seeing and thinking that include earlier and ongoing socialization. So this includes our accents, the languages that we speak as part of habitus. And so the main research questions really explored and focused on how young people experience learning in their everyday spaces. So how do Afghan youth learn within their everyday spaces in their communities? How is their view of themselves and future selves transformed through these learning opportunities? So within their like neighborhoods within Toronto. So it was quite Toronto based. A bit about the methodology, seeing collage as an enabling method. So collage being like an art form where it requires assemblage and sticking together found fragments and mixed media to surface. And so this included Farsi print media, which I also provided for participants, knowing that they spoke Farsi and English. And so I wanted to have a variety of different kind of print media that for them to be able to express themselves and their stories in the ways that they wanted to. So in this way, collage was an enabling method that allowed you to engage in research in ways that were meaningful to them, to be able to share their stories in their own ways and the languages that they spoke. So the participants spoke Farsi and English, and so I made sure to consider both of those in the design of the project. And so through their like stories and their visual narratives of collage, there's a lot of layers of meanings and their relationships to the different kinds of spaces in their everyday lives that which they were learning had emerged, and how they were making meaning of their relations to others and how they were learning together had emerged through this. And so a little bit about the design of it was that there was an art making collage session in the beginning, which I had led, which focused on the prompt of how do you see yourself as a learner within your everyday spaces. So how thinking of what you're learning about outside of the classroom in your daily life and community, and with whom and how do you learn in your everyday life in Toronto. Thinking about that, participants produced an original collage in response to that and how they interpreted that and how and shared a story in connection to that. Then it was followed by focus group discussions, which were 1.5 hours long. And then there was an individual interview, which they got to dive deeper into their pieces and share their stories more deeply with me. These interviews were conducted in Farsi and English, depending on how comfortable the participants were, and based on what they preferred. They could also like switch in between both languages as well. And so there were 21 youth participants, and they were recruited through different ways, online, but also like in person and through posters at community centers and libraries. And they had diverse migration experiences. So some were born and raised here, but also other participants had recently migrated. And through their stories, I was kind of seeing this translanguaging practice occurring, which was like how they were moving across between the languages that they know, using their entire linguistic repertoire to express their ideas and build knowledge. And I thought that was really interesting how they were doing that, and how their collages captured elements of that through specific Farsi words that they were attaching, and that were representing ideas and messages to them, and thinking about their funds of knowledge and the kinds of knowledges and ways of knowing and being that they were bringing with them, that they had with them, that had learned through being with community and through family, and how that was emerging through their stories. And so it was seeing the importance of their linguistic skills as a strength rather than a barrier, and in that way. And so it really allowed me to see how their learning was occurring in relational and collaborative ways. So first, I'll be kind of talking a bit about what I had noticed with the excerpts of poetry that emerged through their collages, which was really interesting to me. Of kind of drawing on specific line that stood out to them and that stayed with them when they had first seen this and read this in Afghanistan. So this participant here says here. It says, from the day you were born to the day you die, study because it is a good thing. And so they were making meaning and translating the Farsi to me in their own ways, and the collage allowed them to share their story in this way. And so here you can see there that they wrote that line of poetry in their piece, and it shaped the way that they learn, that they understand lifelong learning, and what learning means to them. And then the participants also used Farsi with English to share their stories with me together. So here there's a story, a participant was sharing their story about immigration, and when they found the word Mahajirat, which means immigration in Farsi, and so they wanted to put that in their collage to represent their experience of immigrating, and so and how they connected that to who they were. And so they kind of spoke about the significance of that word. It's specifically that word in Farsi, and how they saw it and recognized it in that way. So that was a way in which Farsi was used in their collage. And then over here, I see that we see that within another participant's like story, they were sharing more about how they were kind of blending across different languages that they were learning about. So like with French, Farsi, and English, that they wrote how and how and translated that across. So thinking about the different kind of languages with and how it connected to the self. And then just really quickly hear about another person's narratives about the importance of knowing and being connected to Farsi, and how that allows them to connect with family and community. So they felt like, even though it was like a learning process for them, it was important for them to feel more connected to their culture and to learn with their grandparents. So I thought it's an interesting how it served as a bridge to learning and connecting with family and community. Just and overall, it made me really kind of think about the localized relational knowledges of Afghan youth and their language and learning practices as being seen as legitimate and valuable, and challenging that kind of what the normative language is in the city. And so, thinking about collage and how it enabled. There was an enabling method for them to tell their stories, and the role of multilingualism in the everyday life of Afghan youth. And then I've been really grateful for the community support for the project, and it was featured at a few exhibitions at Hart House and the Toronto Public Library, and at Mark Garneau Collegiate Institute, where young people's the participants' collages were showcased for the community, and they were able to come and with their family and be able to see their work there. And it was important for me to have include Farsi in the exhibition materials, as well as a way of being seen, and language as being connected to belonging, as well, in the city. And so just really quickly in thinking about further considerations, thinking about the different kind of levels of language skills that the participants had, and the role that I had in creating inclusive learning space to be able to for everybody to express themselves in the way that they wanted, and then thinking also about linguistic repertoire and language portraits, which Bush had been working on, and how they might differ or relate to using collage as a way to explore linguistic repertoire as a future direction. And so that was really interesting. So currently in the process of my analytical chapters, and it's in progress in that way. Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who supported the project, and to the participants who were part of it. And thank you so much. And I apologize for being a bit over time.